Welcome back everyone. Today I've got something slightly different for you. Two very similar bikes, both from the same manufacturer, both need the same job doing. However, one's going to take me 5 minutes, one's going to take me 2-3 hours, so let's get cracking. So yeah, I've got two very similar bikes in and I thought it'd be interesting to show you because one needs headset bearings, the other one, this one doesn't actually need it, but I'm going to show you the difference on how easy it is just to get these bearings in and out. We'll just pretend we're changing these for the sake of the video, but the other one, like I say, does actually need changing. So let's just show you this in real time. I'd expect this to take sort of 5 minutes. So I'll try to leave it unedited as much as possible, and you'll get an idea. The other one, like I say, is going to be a proper pain because guess what? It's fully internally routed. However, we've got some good news on it. It's SRAM AXS, so there's no gear cables to do. Just the brake hoses that we need to worry about. And they're going to need to come through the frame, be re-bled, re-terminated, and obviously change the headset bearings. Right, so this one is off. Take these out. Look at the amount of grease in this. This is what you should be looking at. There's one bearing out. There's the other bearing out. So I'll just go and get some new bearings. Obviously, while these are out, we're just going to put some fresh grease on there, even though it is literally brand new by the looks of it. So, good practice just to get some grease on these. Especially in the frame itself, where they would seize. It's not actually doing any sort of bearing racing, because obviously it's a sealed bearing. The grease in here is really more of a prevention to stop the actual bearing seizing into the frame, which is a big problem. I'm just doing the lower cup now. Right, refit these newer bearings. Brand new, honestly. Refit the new top bearing. The shim on this one. Refit all of this. Refit your stem. Top cap. Set your preload. Yeah, I've told you about 1,000 times before, when you're setting your preload, you won't find a torque setting on here because there is no torque. This needs to be probably finger tight. All you're doing is getting the preload out. So tighten that until it stops basically. Hold the end of your handlebars and rock them. If you can feel any play, you need sort of this much more. That's absolutely done, fine. Anybody cranking that down, you're doing it so wrong, it's not even funny. Right, then you just need to torque these back up. Obviously I need to put the wheel in and align it. I'll do that off camera though. That is done. And these are torqued to 6 Newton meters. Done. And just wipe off any grease you've got spilt over. Right. That's those bearings changed. So I think that was 2 minutes, 3 minutes to change the bearings on there, clean it all up, get it back together and set up. So that's how easy it can be. And probably should be, to be fair, but guess what? Modern bikes, not so easy. So let's have a look at the next one. So yeah, this is where the fun and game begins. So this is a fully internally routed handlebar stem, and then through the headset bearings, 2 brake hoses, SRAM rival calipers. So we need to disconnect those both at the calipers, pull the hoses through, and then we can change the bearings. And you'll see this is somewhat more challenging than the other one. So let's make a start. So there's not much point just on doing this yet until we've done some work at the brake end. So we'll start on the calipers first. Let's just get this wheel whipped out, and we need to disconnect the hose. Take the pads out first as well to stop any contamination, because we've got dot fluid flying around all over the place when this comes off, so it's not ideal. So I've already took this out earlier on before I started this video, so the customers managed to strip this bolt out. It's a Torx T25 specific to SRAM. I've got some new ones anyway, so we'll change it over when we put it all back together and align the pads, so that's why that's loose. Alright, so pads out, let's get a bleed block in there. So Shimano bleed block, perfect fit there, and we'll drop this pin through. So that's the pads out. Now we need to disconnect this and remove the old olive, and then we can pull this hose through the hole in the frame. The reason we've got to disconnect it all is because this nut here won't go through the hole that's on the inside of the fork. This one here, I don't know why there's two holes on here, very unusual, I've never seen that before. If anybody else knows, then please let me know, because I'm intrigued. It also has the one at the top of the fork that you'd expect to see. If only they'd use this one, this would be a much simpler job. But no, everybody wants internal, smooth looking aerodynamic bikes, and yeah, this is the price you're going to pay for it, unfortunately. So let's get going. Just get this flare nut undone. Like I say, this is loose from me before. I'm not going to try and tighten it back up because there's no point. I've got a new one on the way. Try and use a flare nut span if you can. These are obsolete now from Park Tools, but you can still find them used on eBay. They're fantastic little spanners. Other people make them obviously, but I quite like these. They superseded it to a one newer version where you can fit a torque wrench to the end of it, but it's not as thick as this. It's nowhere near as nice a fit. So if you can grab these, then they're great. Part number MWF1, I think the other one's MWF2, but you don't really need the other one. It's 8 and 10 covers the vast majority of stuff. In fact, I don't think I've ever used the other one. Right, so let's pull this one out. And get that cloth over there. Right, so we need to get this olive off. So this is where this job now becomes somewhat more of an issue, because we've got to cut this hose off here and you lose in length. I think on this one we're okay. I think there's enough that we can pull through to accommodate the piece we've chopped off. But if you've not got enough spare then what we need to do then will be the unwrapping the handlebars, going all the way back to the lever, fitting a new hose all the way back to the lever. And on these SRAM ones, it's a special hose with the barb in the lever end. They're about £45 each, so that's an additional sort of £90 in brake hoses you might need for a SRAM system, just because we're going to change our £5 headset bearing. Plus 2 or 3 hours labour, plus bar tape as well. So, yeah, I'm not complaining. I don't mind doing the job, but honestly, it's just ridiculous. Right, I'm going to cut this off. The only reason we're cutting it is because this nut won't go through that hole in the frame. So, cut it as close as you possibly can. We want to save as much hose as we really possibly can. So that should cover the barb that's in the hose. That's it. So that's all we need to chop off. That's in there. Right, that's that end done. Obviously, it's going to drip brake fluid now for however long, so we'll leave that there for now and we'll move to the back brake. Alright, so there's not enough room here to get this nut undone with a hose against the frame, I don't think, not safely, so I'm going to have to loosen the caliper off as well. But first of all, obviously, we'll take the pads out again. At least these don't seize like the Shimano ones. You might have seen one of the videos I did on the felt road bike where this bolt seizes in the Shimano calipers. It's a big problem. SRAM luckily don't suffer from that problem. These pads out, keep them somewhere clean. 2 T25 bolts underneath here, which also means you've got to then realign your caliper after you've done this job as well. Even more work. So there should be enough now, hopefully, to get this hose out. This is the newer version of that Park tool that I was talking about. You see, it's much thinner. It does have the holes for torque wrenches, but I don't like it. Okay, I'm just going to put a cloth back here before we spill dot brake fluid everywhere. SRAM have finally gone to mineral fluid. Realise the error of their ways. Let's get this out. There's the same one on here, it's going to need cutting out, so you can see the brake fluid just dripping out the caliper there, but not much you can do about that. Again, we've got enough hose here. You can see I've just very gently pulled that, and there's going to be more than enough hose here, so we're lucky on this bike. So some bikes, if you've not got enough to pull through there, you're in a world of pain because you've got to do the whole shebang. Again, I'll just cut this off short as possible anyway. We've got quite a bit spare on this one by the looks of it. Make sure you don't get any gloves and you're holding the bike with it. It's just, oh god. Paint doesn't like dot brake fluid, that's for sure. Right, that's undone. We'll take this nut off now. We don't lose that, we need this. I've got this bung actually that comes with new calipers, and that will just screw in there and stop the majority of that coming out. We've still got to bleed the system obviously eventually, so it's not exactly in, but it's better than nothing. We just need to unclip this guide here for the frame. Take that out so we don't lose it as well. So this is obviously going to go through the frame and under the bottom bracket or over it. So we don't really want to just pull it out. We need to attach something to here to pull through when we do it, so we can pull it back through again. So I'll just attach a tool to that we can pull through. Right, this one should do. I'm just going to screw this into the end of the hose gently, and you need to just grab it because obviously we've got to put a new barb in here. Right, that should be enough. That's obviously attached to a long piece of cable. Right, that'll pull through now, so I'll leave that as it is. So now we can move up to the headset and make a start on getting this out. This part is no different to the normal headset job, so it's the same as the other one. Just take out your top cap. Loosen your stem. Do it evenly best you can. Shouldn't be very tight, only 6 Newton meters, 5 or 6 Newton meters on this one. And that should come out now. So there's your hoses. This is what the issue is. It's not an issue, it's just how they are. And then all this stuff here should unslip. I'm just going to put something underneath the fork to stop it falling out. I'll just use my part stored on this one there. The fork's going to come out ultimately, but just while we're taking this to pieces, we don't want it just dropping out onto the floor. Right, so we're just going to get these spaces off so we can not worry about the fork falling out too much now. I think this one stays on, this top one. These other ones clip together like that. So you take those spaces out, and then this will just come off the top like this. And now it's time to basically pull the hoses through. So I've connected another cable to the front hose just in case. You'd probably be okay just to thread this straight through the fork, but just be on the safe side. Right, let's get pulling. So that's where that comes through the fork and then down inside. So we'll just pull this one through and then the rear one as well. Right, just take your time. Make sure you get the right one first. This is the front one. Pull that through and it should come out fairly easily. Like that, and there's the end of the guide. So we can undo this now. You've got to try and hold your handlebars at the same time as doing this, so it's a bit fiddly. Right, undo that, and then we're just going to pull the back one out as well. That's got its guide attached. It should come fairly easily. There you go. It's got some insulation on this. This is foam insulation that sits in the down tube, just to stop the hose rattling around and making noise. That's all that does. And that's that one through as well. Good. I'm hoping this is all stayed in focus for you. Right, we can take these bars away now. This is just a bottle of automotive brake cleaner. Don't buy the bike specific one, please. It's exactly the same stuff and it's 10 times the price as usual. You get 5 litres of this stuff for not very much at all. So all I'm going to do now is just wipe down any surfaces where potentially I've touched it with brake fluid or my glove or anything else. You just got to be careful you don't leave the dot fluid where it could potentially damage the paint. Okay, so that's all good there, it's nice and clean. Just do the back end, we've pulled that through. That's right, so don't lose these, whatever you do, and then we can finally get these bearings out. So I'm just going to raise the bike up to get this fork out. That's that. Doesn't matter too much about that, that will go straight through the head tube, so that's easy. There's a fork with a caliper still attached to it, so we'll keep it upwards, otherwise all this fluid's just going to pour out obviously. And there's the first bearing we need to change. How easy it is now. And here's the other one. Super easy when you got all that rubbish out of the way. So there you go. You could see on the other bike that was sort of 2-3 minutes to get to that stage, and that's been, to be fair, it's not been too long on this one, but it could be a lot worse. If you had gear cables to worry about as well, it's obviously double the work, but not been too bad so far, but we still need to reconnect it all and bleed the brakes, so a bit more work to do yet. So let's get some bearings. Now the thing with bearings, I've gone online, because obviously I can't get these out to check what sizes they are first, so I've gone online and checked Ribble's website and got their information. So I've gone by their information to see if we've got the right bearings. But this is the sort of situation you guys are going to end up in, I'll tell you that for nothing. You're going to order the bearings and they're going to be wrong. The information out there for headset bearings is shockingly inaccurate, unfortunately, so I'm hoping I've got the right ones. I think we are okay. These are 2 new ones and they're the old ones there. So there's 3 measurements, well there's actually 5 measurements you need to do on a headset bearing. So it's better if you can find the information online. So you need obviously the internal diameter, 40, the external 51.9, 52 this one is, but there's different sizes. This is a 52, and you will get 51.8 as well, so be careful, that's 52. And then the thickness of it, this is 7mm. I think the other one is 8. Yeah, 8mm. And then you've also got 2 different angles, so this angle here can be either 45 degrees or 36 degrees, and this angle here 45 or 36, and the same on the other one as well. Good. I'll tell you, the amount of times I've gone by manufacturer's information on the internet and ordered them in and they're wrong, and you're waiting another 3 or 4 days, it's just, oh my god, it's so annoying. Right, so these can go in now, 2 new bearings. Alright, just putting some fresh grease in this cup here for the bearing. Thread that one on, it's the thinner one for the top one on this one. Just clean this lower race. And again, just get some grease on there. I mean, people keep asking me which grease, it doesn't matter, any grease is better than no grease. This is Mobile. No particular reason, it just happens to be close at hand at the moment. I've got an expensive fork in my hand. Right, so now we need to get this green cable back through here. Just grab it through your fingers. Done. You can thread this fork carefully back through there. That's that. And again, we'll just lower the bike down to rest the fork. So bearings are in. Now it's just a case of obviously putting the bars back on and pulling the hoses back through the frame. So let's do that. Okay, so let's disconnect this front one back up. We can pull that through. Again, we just need a few threads in here just to give it something to guide it through. We're not really pulling it, we're just more guiding it than pulling. So that's on. And the same on the back one. So I've got 3 or 4 of these kits now, and just bits and pieces just to make up pullers. You might be okay without it, but it's a massive risk if you just pull a hose all the way through the frame with nothing to guide it back through. It can be a real nightmare. Alright, let's pull this front one through first. Point it in the right direction and guide it down. Try not to pull it too much, we are really sort of guiding it more than pulling it. Because what you don't want to do is rip that off and then be back to square one. So this is getting stuck somewhere. Okay, good. You do need 3 pairs of hands to do this because you've got to hold the bars at the same time. Well, that's the front one through. And now we just start this back one on its way down as well. So just get these twisted the right way around because this rear one went down this side of the front one. So that's the right place for that. And we just pull this through slowly. Again, guide it down. It's going into the down tube first. And we do need to get this foam insulation with it as well. And we're just pulling that through slowly. Get in there. Again, I'm just going to push this through. So most of that foam now, that's all into the down tube. Pull a little bit more through the back. And that's through as well. Okay, so both hoses are through the frame where they should be. So now we can put this bit back in. Right, plenty of grease on this expander. It's not really an expander, it's a wedge that compresses the tension on the bearing. And this split was obviously there for the hose. So that goes on there. And the hoses sit in the gap. And this cup goes on there. So that sits on there. Now we can get the spacers back in. There's 2 pegs that sit there, and this goes around the front of the hose. And they go there. And this one goes on the bottom of the stem, so there's a bit more hose to pull through yet before we can get this to sit where it needs to be. So that will now drop onto there, like so. Just line those pegs up in the headset, and that's in. Good. And you just drop your preload cap back in there and get everything held together so you don't need this stool to hold it together. Right, that's good. I'll take the stool out of the way. Headset feels lovely. That's nice and tight enough. Not aligned yet, but that's fine. We can do that later. Tiny bit more. Okay, good. Nice and smooth once again. I'm just going to clean this excess grease off. That's inevitable when you do a job like this. Obviously I've not tightened these up yet because we've not aligned the wheel yet. So that's good. The excess off the bottom of the fork. Very nice. Unfortunately, that's only half the job. We've still got to bleed the brakes, connect them back up. Right, don't forget to put your frame guide back on, because it'd be quite annoying when you forgot that. That can just clip in now out of the way. Like that. We've got loads of hose on this one actually, because I mean, look how far long that is. There's loads. So some bikes you're lucky, some you're not. This one was okay. So this one then drops back onto this. Don't forget that as well. That'd be a bad day. And then we just need to put a fresh barb in here. These are just aftermarket SRAM barbs. You can use the red ones as well, but these do the same job. Basically just loading this into this pin, a bit fiddly. Load that pin into the tool, load that in there, clamp the hose through there, get it somewhere close, and lock it down. And then just wind that in there. This is just a generic sort of AliExpress hose tool you can buy. Much posher, sort of one action ones, but they all do the same job ultimately. Just screw that in until it stops there, don't go any further. And then undo your hose. Olive should now just slide up to the end of that nicely, like that. Perfect. Alright, we're just going to put a little bit of grease on here, just helps it all go in nicer. And then get that into the caliper itself, obviously, nice and straight, and then start the thread. Just be super careful you got this going in straight. If you're not like that, you think it's going in and it's not, so you just got to be really careful. You'll feel when it bites. Right, if you're struggling like that, just take the caliper off the frame. So the caliper's already loose, so we do need to realign the brakes anyway, so it's no big deal. This is one part of the frame you can never clean until this comes off. Right, let's just get this thread started first and then we can clean this. That needs to go in there, that goes in there, and it will eventually bite like that. So once you get it lined up, it goes in easy. Okay, good. It's not tight yet, obviously. We're going to clean this first. There's some marks here from the frame. Looks like that's when it was actually installed and chipped all the lacquer off and everything. Just going to put a dropper Loctite in these bolts where it used to be. Just refit this. We're going to nip it up almost tight because I've got to just tighten this nut up and I don't want the caliper floating around while we're doing that. And you feel it when it starts to go there. Good. Tighten these back up roughly. And now we've got to bleed it. Worst bit of the job. I think these might, they're not even bleeding edge, these are older than bleeding edge, so it makes it even more difficult. Right, let's move on to the front, reconnect that first. Again on the front, just take this out. You're going to lose a bit of fluid, so try and move swiftly. Don't forget your nut. You normally can just push these in ever so slightly just to get them started like that. Not essential to put these on first, but sometimes what happens is it expands ever so slightly and you can't move this olive, so I like to get them on the hose first just in case, like so, and then just wind this in. I'm still intrigued by this. It's got 2 holes in the foot. I've never seen that before. It's almost like you can have a caliper that's fed by 2 hoses. I don't think so. Somebody must know. Right, that's in. So don't go crazy with it. Once it's in, it's in. Right, so we can just put that straight into the caliper now. And again, we've just got to get this thread started. I know this bolt's broken. I am waiting for a new one. It should be here imminently. I've got bolts that are dear, but I want it to match the original Torx bolt. Amazing how, look, these sort of look like they're going to go in, but they just won't, so just don't force it. Like I say, just take the caliper off if you have to. Right, that's got that one. Good. Right, the brake fluid here, so let's give it a quick clean before we forget. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, all back together, and these levers actually feel good. I am still going to bleed them briefly, but they do feel actually okay, so check the other one. This is the rear. That feels pretty much exactly as it came in. So obviously I would disconnected the system, so potentially could be a tiny bit of air in the hose, so we'll just bleed this through now. It's not my favourite job on SRAM, but we'll do it anyway. So on SRAM, your port is underneath the lever at the top here. Most of them, there's a T10 on there, so that would just unscrew, and then you screw your syringe in there. Same on the caliper, and it's just basically a case of pushing and pulling fluid through until you see no air in the syringe. So let's do that. So there's a 5.1 fluid specified for this. Definitely can't use a 5. 5 is a synthetic brake fluid. It's nothing like this actually. So even though it's listed the same .5, it's completely different to .5.1. So please don't use that. So this is a new small bottle. Don't use the big bottles of this because it basically absorbs sort of moisture in the air over time. So try and keep just small bottles in stock and open them when you need them. I've only opened this very recently, so I'm going to use some of this. So on dot fluid, there's a big debate how you should set the syringes up. The old SRAM instructions used to say you basically pull this, push and pull this back through to get the air in like this and sort of let it accumulate. But the newer instructions say don't bother, and if you read through a lot of the forums, a lot of the mechanics basically saying it's absolutely pointless doing this. Unless you put it into an actual vacuum chamber itself, you're achieving basically nothing. So yeah, you can do that and look good on Instagram and stuff, but you're not actually achieving anything in the grand scheme of things. So obviously make sure you squeeze any big bubbles out the top before you lock the hose off, but just go as it is, okay? So I'm just going to remove this. I'm not going to do a full sort of brake tutorial on how to bleed brakes, because there's some fantastic tutorials out there filmed by a much better cameraman than me with sort of 2 or 3 cameras showing you how to do it really well. But this is the basic premise of it really, so just take that out, make sure your O-ring comes out with it as well. Screw one syringe into the lever. This is the front brake on the UK. Just screw that in there. This is already clipped closed at the moment. And we'll do the same on the caliper. So there's another port down here, just take that out, should be the same size. Again, we are now touching brake fluid again, so just be careful with your wear gloves. Who doesn't wear gloves? Just leave one on the Torx key and you can remember which one that is. This came out the bottom. I just normally leave it on the floor to be fair, and then I can remember where it was. Screw this in before it drains itself out completely. So the newer SRAM ones have what they call bleeding edge, so you don't need to take that screw out altogether. It basically pushes in there and clicks, and then you turn it sort of a quarter of a turn. It opens the system without actually opening it. Alright, so we can just open these clips now. Then all we're doing is just pushing and pulling really. So I'm pushing the caliper one now. You see some air coming out there. Just slowly. Make sure you don't empty the caliper syringe. There's not too much coming out. I wasn't expecting a great deal. And then we'll go down to the caliper and do the same. Now we're just pushing it back through from the lever. Yeah, there's a bit of air there just come out of the caliper. Still a bit there. Good. I'm going to repeat that again, back up to the lever. This is not really the official sort of SRAM way of doing it, but I've always done this and it's 9 times out of 10 it's worked just fine. You can just pull a little bit of a vacuum with the syringe when you finish just to suck any extra air out, but in reality I don't find it makes much difference. The bleeding edge is much better because you can sort of push in an additional couple of drops in when you're finished, just to boost the press of the system up really. I'll just keep pushing and pulling this through really until I've got to see no air in either syringe. Yeah, if you're going to get any SRAM brakes, get the ones that say Shimano on the side. Much better. I think when I get to sort of 50, 100k subs and I'm looking for sponsors, I don't think SRAM are going to be knocking on my door, unfortunately. Sorry. I love some of their stuff, but some of it, oh my god. Look at that, another drop coming out now. We're happy with this. Alright, so in this case, basically, you're undoing the syringes and putting your plugs back in without drowning in brake fluid. Alright, nothing coming out there now. Okay, let's get these plugs back in. Yeah, just clip your hoses shut. Try and keep a bit of pressure in the system. We know which plug it is because it's the one we left on the bottom of the bike on the floor. It's clean. Inevitably, you're going to lose some fluid here. Just try and act fairly swiftly. Right, and that's back in. These don't need to be crazy tight, yeah? That's it. No more tighter than that. Clean this off. Just wiping any brake fluid off there. Get your thumb ready just to keep it over there before you get it like that. Like that. And then get ready with your plug. Obviously you're going to lose some. Okay, good. Quickly wipe that off. Right, that should feel pretty good now. And indeed it does, that feels awesome for a SRAM. Right, obviously we've still got a bleed block in there, so when we get the wheel in, the pads, that will settle itself down and return to where it used to be. Right, I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. I'm not going to film it, but I'll just do exactly the same for the rear brake now. I think it might be broken. They're all done, no problem at all there. So just get these pads back in and get the wheels in and align these calipers. These are brand new pads that the customer fitted just before we brought it in for this headset. So they are brand new. They don't need to be super tight anyway. Just a retainer. And a little retaining clip as well. Okay, get this wheel back in and we can centre this caliper because obviously we've had that all completely off. Just loosen them up slightly again if they were tight. I can't remember why I tightened them now. So well maintained bike this, it's very nice. Grease on the through axle, everything seems to be working really well. I think the headset bearing was just a step too far for the owner there, which I can fully understand. Right, let's just centre this caliper a bit more. I might try and do a video on sort of centering discs and stuff, but to be honest, it's just a pain in the ass sometimes. All this stuff where people say you just squeeze the lever on and tighten it up. I'm guaranteed for a fact I've done hundreds, probably thousands of these, and that works around about 1% of the time. The rest of the time it does absolutely nothing. And then your little metal shim things that you put in, that works probably another 1% of the time. The other 98% of the time you're doing it the hard way like this, you're centering it by eye. You can't believe everything you see on the internet. Right, I'm good there. I'm just going to pad these in now. That's a lovely lever that is. Perfect. No rubbing either. Let's just bang the front one in exactly the same. Right, that's it. I can't finish it yet. I'm still waiting for this T25 bolt to come, but that's on for now. So all I need to do there is basically replace that bolt and centre this caliper on the disc at some point. First of all, I'll straighten these bars onto the wheel before I forget. Alright, so 6 Newton meters. Super easy to centre on this because you've got this here. You just get it level. Alright, we're good. Just to snip these up slightly and then torque it down. Alright. So that's interesting. I've gone with that with a 6 Newton meter. It's recommended on the side there as a stem, and that's stripped out. So I'm guessing whoever's done it before has over tightened that and stripped this little plate. It is a replaceable plate, so it's not the end of the world, but it just shows you why you've got to be super careful with this. This is limited to 6 Newton meters, so someone's obviously been swinging on it before with an Allen key and damaged that. So it's not the end of the world because this is a separate piece. Otherwise it would be quite bad. I don't have one, but let's see what we can do. So this piece here is damaged. So we either order a new one from Rebel, or we look at sort of helicoil in this or something similar. So the thread in there is damaged on this one here. That's not tightening up. Yeah, I can see it's been stripped out. So we need to get a new one of these first before we can finish this. So Rebel don't appear to sell this on their website as a spare part, even though it's clearly designed to be removable in case of damage. So I guess they expect you to buy a new one-piece handlebar and stem. So yeah, result. So what we're going to do is going to go one better. I'm going to helicoil this, which is then better than new, to steel insert a thread instead of this aluminium. So we'll do that now. Alright, so to me it looks like this one's already been done. Obviously someone's had the same problem before, so we'll do this one anyway. It's the easiest piece in the world that you can possibly helicoil, so we're lucky in that respect. Just clamp it in your aluminium jaws, you don't mar the finish, and we just drill that out. There's an M5 helicoil kit here. So all we need to do is drill out what's left of this thread here, tap it with a helicoil tap, the correct size, then we insert the steel helicoil insert. So this will basically make it better than new because it's a steel thread rather than this soft aluminium that's being damaged. It'll be better than new. If you've not seen a helicoil before, then they're obviously very useful bits of kit to get you out of situations like this. Let's get this thread started and then we can start to reverse it to clear the chips out as you're supposed to. Very easy to cut aluminium though, aluminum. Crazy how they don't sell this part. I mean, they might do if you ring them up and spend half an hour on online chat stuff, but certainly not listed as a spare part on their website, even though it seems to be standard for the vast majority of their stems. They do dropouts and things like that, but you'd expect to see this listed as a spare part. Okay, that's a new thread there. And then with the insert, we need to Loctite this in with some red Loctite, leave it overnight, and then we're good to go. Right, should just screw in there, hopefully. Like that. I need to get this flush with the top of this one, like that. So yeah, there's a tiny little bit of excess there we can just cut off, grind off. There might even be enough room in the stem, I'll check later, but that just needs to come off. So yeah, once that's dry, brand new thread. Better than new. I've also got this replacement bolt to get this one out. Genuine SRAM replacement bolt. I think these are titanium, I'm not sure. And that's gone in, no problem. Just need to make sure this rotor's centered. I think the customer needs to give himself a torque wrench because that's that bolt damage, that's the one on the stem. So yeah, don't go crazy else you're gonna cause some expensive damage. Look at that for a guess, perfect. Beautiful. Alright, just nip these up. Tell you what, we'll use the torque wrench here. See, that's slipped out as well. That's... See, he's already rounded that one out as well, so I've got a pair, so let's replace that at the same time. Crazy, you gotta be careful guys. This is £6 for 2 bolts here because they've been over tightened. I guess potentially it could have been done by this shop who built the bike initially, but in my experience they would normally just change these straight out. Not rubbing, let's get a torque wrench on that. We're looking at 5 Newton meters. This is again a part tool, this is adjustable, so you could have had 6 Newton meters for the stem and 5 Newton meters for this one. Right, that's tight, and that's tight. That's all they need to be. Done. It just goes to show you how different the same job can be on 2 different bikes that basically fundamentally look the same. So internally routed hoses on hydraulics can add massively to the time and expense of a job, unfortunately. But yeah, I hope that gives you a good idea of sort of why people sort of complain so much about internally routed hoses, and obviously gear cables normally as well in there. It can be massively time consuming. This one wasn't too bad in the end. Could have been a lot worse. So if the hoses were too short and you've got to go all the way back to the lever, you've got to rewrap the handlebars. Yeah, honestly, it's just crazy. Crazy job. But we're done now. Hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned. So much more to come. And thank you very much for all your support. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.